The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
All right. Everybody's favorite time of day on Saturday when we get to look at tea leaves. We get to speculate about astrology. We get to draw dubious lines on charts and pretend like we know what we're talking about.
I'm gonna put you on my speakers here as I make espresso and listen in.
Yeah, man. Make an espresso. Take that bump. Whatever you got to do. Just playing. Stay away from those bumps, bros. I think Johnny Cash wrote a song about that. But yeah, okay. So as everyone probably knows, we've been on the verge of just complete annihilation, despair, breakdown. Not Monero. We're fine. Like, we're basically used to that kind of bullshit. In fact, for Monero, like, you look at this chart and you're like, what? Did something happen? Like, oh yeah, we had a little pullback. Okay, whatever. You know, we're sleeping like a baby. We're having no problems here. And when we compare Monero's relative price to the rest of the market, looks great, looks fantastic. It's kind of like our consolation prize, if you will. You know, when everyone else is crying with their Doge tears, with their weak Cheems tears, we're just sipping on our coffee or whatever beverage you might have this morning. Or maybe not coffee at all for those in the comments that have been poo-pooing such notions. Okay, so yeah, we're sitting here at 218, 220, and the major massive standard deviation cluster sits just slightly above us at about $227. And as we've talked about, we're basically just trying to establish that price can indeed hold this level. And you know, we've talked about the possibility for sort of trying to tag these lower lines down here, these lower bands in the 180, 190 area, and so far that hasn't happened. And it's kind of cool because you would think that should have happened, right? With the rest of the crypto market just crashing. So for example, let's go take a look at the abusive daddy coin, not Tate's coin, but Bitcoin. Obviously, they call it the God market. A very abusive God and daddy market of a coin has dropped to the tune of like 20% here. And that's just from where we broke down, right? From the top, from where it was, it's down about 30%. Now, of course, you veterans out there know that this is pretty normal for a bear market, and everyone's crying in the streets about their losses. And actually, you know, I'm being really hyperbolic here because in reality, Twitter has been pretty notably silent. Like, yeah, okay. Some people there's always people saying it's over, and sometimes it is over, but maybe we don't have quite enough evidence to say that at this particular moment. The chart doesn't look great, but that doesn't mean the bull market's over. Basically, you know, Bitcoin just poked above the previous all-time high here at $74,000, set that, and then we did this sideways chop for a long time. Then we broke out with the election because of the strategic Bitcoin reserve, the mythical strategic Bitcoin reserve that still is somehow not forthcoming. But anyways, regardless of the sort of news cycle out there, it would be completely unsurprising to see Bitcoin come back here and tag this previous all-time high. Right, because 73,000 as compared to the previous all-time high of 69,000 or whatever, like that's a marginally higher high. So it's really not terribly unexpected to have a 30% drop in a bull market, and nor is it unexpected to finally beat the all-time high, like in a sustainable, you know, putting on, let's see, do we have like 2 months here? I think there's like 2 months of close above the previous all-time high. Looking at the monthly candles here, yeah, I mean, we actually had 1, 2, 3, 4 now, 4 closes above the previous all-time high. So, you know, that's a really good sign, again, that we're in a bear market, that there's probably more gains to come. Listen, guys, I can't tell you that a macro crash will not happen before, you know, those gains come. Like, it might, like, hypothetically, we could be entering into the macro crash season here. I mean, we're already in the window. It could happen now at any time. So we could see everything flip negative next week. It's totally possible. Anyways, the point is that, yeah, coming back down here and retesting this all-time high is just how charts behave. You actually want this. Like, you want to see this retest. This puts you in a position for sustainable action for the months into the future, for, you know, maybe even the next year, 2 years into the future, hypothetically. I am having trouble, as I've mentioned, I am having trouble seeing where's the liquidity going to come from to just smash us higher to 150, 200K in short order. I don't see where that liquidity is going to come from. However, we do have a situation that has unfolded for many months now, really over a year, where there are these steady gains that just keep coming, right? The gains keep coming in steady. Really, they're in fits and starts, is the way the Bitcoin chart has moved. But um, the S&P, the traditional markets have just put on incremental, step by step, brick by brick kind of gains for over a year now, for well over a year. And so, the economy is always kind of adding new liquidity, and there's always a new company, and they're always printing a little bit more money here, a little bit more money there. So, we could sort of incrementally get to 150, 200K. So maybe that could happen. But without a macro crash and a subsequent intervention, I don't see how we're just going to smash to the heavens, to the highest heights of new Bitcoin prices. So yeah, there's a little bit of rambling for you on what might be happening with Bitcoin. So, and we'll go back to that in a second. So, but just in context, Bitcoin has dropped like 30% from its local highs and its all-time high in this bull market. And Monero did about a 15% drop. So, yeah, we're dropping about half as much. This is also apparent on the XMR versus BTC chart. And yeah, basically we ran into the to those levels that we've been eyeballing now for a while. Really ever since we kind of started doing this, we said, hey, normal wave magic action would put us up here into this zone here. And we've basically touched that. This is a good point to start saying, hey, at what point could this, maybe take some time and then come to a reversal here for a period of time? Nothing goes up in a straight line. These levels are not hard levels. So in the XMR BTC ratio here, we are looking at, I believe that would be 0.002. So like 0.2% of Bitcoin's total price, or since they have the same supply almost there, this is also kind of a market cap chart at the same time. But again, these blue lines here, the upper standard deviations, this is not a hard stopping like line that, prescriptively says you shall not pass. We could, it's common to get up here into this area, maybe a little bit above and come back down, or sometimes like get a wick, right, spike up there. But generally speaking, this is the zone where you kind of expect to find some consternation of price before it can decide to do something else. So yeah, and the other thing I was pointing out last week, that entering this zone kind of tells us that we might be entering a zone where the paradigm, the market, maybe not paradigm, the profile, the market profile might be shifting just a little bit, right? We could say, okay, Monero has made a pretty good comeback relative to Bitcoin. That typically happens when markets are flat to down. Monero tends to outperform, and that's just a standard way of price management that we've talked about over and over again here. They do it for gold, they do it for Monero. They want to suppress the price of Monero when everything is pumping. They don't want Monero to pump with it because they want the negative sentiment generated. Oh, that privacy shitcoin it doesn't have any gains, right? Those fucking autistic maxis and the rest of the market. They want everyone to think that. And then they give that price back slowly, right? They balance their books. They balance that equation on the pullbacks when everyone's like, oh, I don't care, my bags are down, and no one's like actually really watching, right? So it's about psychological management, because they've already maxed out the fractional reserve. They've already maxed out like the absolute fraud components. So they really try to generate the psychological component to the greatest degree that they are able. Okay, so yep, that's Monero versus Bitcoin, doing pretty good. We can even see it here if we hop over to the Z-scores. Again, Z-scores being a way to sort of normalize everything to a 0 point with statistical tools that are common, known, nothing fancy, nothing inventive here. This is just applying a simple tool that I've used other times in professional context to normalize sets of data so that you can compare them. Monero, you can compare them relative to their own price history and their own volatility, but two, relative to each other. So as you can see, Monero is basically flying high, sitting here at the top. That blue coin in dark that we talked about last week that I don't like so much is also kind of in the same area, which is unsurprising because, as we noted, their charts actually look very similar. They look crazy similar. Like if you showed me the one, I would maybe have a hard time distinguishing it from the other, depending on the time frame you showed me. Bitcoin, interestingly, is like the Z-scores on Bitcoin are down quite a lot. Everything else seems to be holding just a little bit better. But again, Bitcoin also sort of took off and left a lot of other things in the dust for a period of time. So this could just be, returning of sanity or something like that, normalization to the market. Another like little happy chart I wanted to show you quickly here was the XMR.D. So, I mean, it's maybe on this timeline, this chart doesn't look very happy. So pretend you didn't see that. Let's just go to the 4 hour. maybe the 8 hour. If I can do it. Dang it. There we go. Okay. Here we go. This chart looks happier. Just cherry pick the timeline. I promise you'll find a way to get happy about any chart. Yeah, so here we are. Monero sort of outshining the rest of the market to the tune of about 67% since November, right? Since the kickoff of the major bull market here, or the major bull market surpassing previous all-time highs. Monero transactions, however, don't seem to be doing much different. They are still centered just below 30K. You would call this moving average, maybe like 27,000 transactions, but it's still though, like we've actually, like, if you come and really think about it, the Monero transaction counts have significantly increased from, say, about a year ago, right? Like going back maybe about a year ago, we were more centered around that 20K area for quite a long time, like really quite a long time. And ever since, let's just call it, let's just call it January 2024, so about a year, we moved up to that 25K range and occasionally into that 30K range. So it does look like transaction counts are increasing. And it's funny because this is like we're seeing slow, incremental, steady gains on the Monero price, and it does seem to have some corroboration to the transaction count chart. Please don't mistake correlation for corroboration. I'm not saying that these are correlated, but there is some congruence here that I would like to hallucinate and believe. Let's go and check out the mining difficulty as well here. So yeah, the mining difficulty. Wait, no, not the difficulty. The hash rate. There we go. Yeah, so the mining difficulty now sitting around 4 gigas pretty consistently since what is this date? For about a month, since like the end of January, sitting around 4 gigas, flexing up here up to maybe 4.5 gigas. I think there's another way to like calculate this because I've seen another chart that actually shows this slightly higher, so maybe up to 5 gigas. I think it just depends perhaps on the time frame that you want to like do the analysis, right? Do you want to look for an hour? Do you want to look for 24 hours? But yeah, so there's our hash rate continues to climb. Transaction counts kind of flat overall for the last 6 months, but you know, with room for improvement. Okay, say room for improvement. I'm curious about the privacy shitcoins. I actually haven't looked at these all week, mostly because I don't care. Sounds like Tari is actually going to come out. So sorry, Xano bros, you're going to have some fundamental problems and headwinds because Tari is going to merge mine with Monero, and y'all don't, right? Y'all don't merge mine with Monero. So I think a lot of people are going to take that as a sign of, well, let me rephrase. Tari partially merged mines with Monero. I wish they had done a little bit more percentage of that mining that would be merged with Monero, but at least it's still some, I believe. Although I haven't heard from I haven't checked on Tari in a long time. So anyone that knows about it, feel free to shout out in the comments and tell us what's going on there. But at any rate, Tari is supposed to be like this NFT kind of chain, if I understand Fluffy correctly.
Don't worry, it's just going to be an April Fool's joke.
Probably. Tari has become the hashtag 18 months of privacy NFTs. But maybe for real this time, for real. So if they do launch, Xano is going to have problems. Like there's going to be this competition for a market that basically has little to no demand. So I'm not really sure exactly what Xano plans to do to overcome that, especially since Tari will be merge mined. I personally don't care that much about Tari, but it'll be interesting to see, and it's probably worth some. It's probably worth some X's. You know, you probably get some gains. Right now, though, Xano, man, it's really having problems. Like it came down here into this level. Okay, pumped again. I mean, shit. You know what? I forgot. I'm not supposed to be making predictions here. I shouldn't even put the wave magic on here. You guys can just figure out what you want to do. Let's just clear this. No more wave magic on Xano. Sorry, we're not going to influence that market. I don't want to be accused of anything. I'm just going to delete that. I hate to do that to the Xano guys. It's maybe wrong. Maybe that's wrong to treat them differently. I just don't want to influence that market, you know, and we can kind of maybe do that on the show here. So anyways, Firo, pumped and dumped. It's around Tripper. It tried to be like Monero with make their chart for a second look like Monero, but didn't happen. Pirate Chain. Sorry, guys. Y'all are in the doghouse too. And dang it, my buttons aren't working. Maybe I'm just not pressing them properly. No, that was definitely TradingView's fault on that one. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Zcash, same story. You know, tried to pump, tried to look cool. Look, we have 329%, and then they're down like over 50%. In fact, their total drop here, Jesus Christ, how do you drop 70%? How do you drop 70? Just is fraud, guys. Like their special ingredient is crime. Yeah, that's not a real chart.
Yeah, what was up with that? That's so weird. So weird.
It's just it's just their people, their market makers in the background, their market pumpery, fuckery, and all of the little tricks they do. Like everyone's like, but Bowdy, they would never do that. Yes, they would, and it's been proven. Like we have known that crypto volumes have been fake for like crypto volumes as one tiny example amongst many. Crypto volumes have been fake and gay since like ever, like since they started. Like take fraud is the rule in crypto. Mt. Gox collapsed on the basis of the Willy bots, which were allowed to buy Bitcoin with dollars they didn't actually have, dollars that they just synthetically created as a fucking dot on a screen, as a number on a screen. Sounds kind of familiar for the astute observer. But yeah, they pumped the price of Bitcoin way the hell higher than it should be, and then it crashed. And it just crashed because those dollars didn't exist on the exchange. And that was like one of the first, big fraudulent things. And then they found, oh, hey, all the volume on all these exchanges that popped up after Mt. Gox, that's also fake and gay because they do the statistical analysis on the numbers. Like you should have a certain distribution of the first digit and a certain distribution of the last digit. And when those distributions don't match, like that tells you that, hey, there's probably some forgery of those going on. They have since corrected their fakery to look less fake, but it's still pretty gay. So yeah, just know that fraud is a part of the crypto markets. Sorry to freaking, I don't know, rant and lecture on why that happens, but whatever. Doesn't matter.
Zcash specifically, I mean, Zcash has a corporation behind it, and they directly get money from people using it. And the higher the price, the more percentage that they get of that, right? Or not, it's the same percentage, but effectively they get more fiat value, right?
I mean, I think that
I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but I'm just trying to paint a picture here.
It's a reasonable speculation, and it's totally fine to make those kinds of speculations. And when you look at a chart like this, you say to and you know that there's a dev tax, and you know that they have been locked, like holding arms or holding hands with the sort of corporate exchange complex, and they're completely integrated into it, and they haven't been kicked off even a single exchange. You have to start to say, well, maybe something is going on here with this alleged privacy coin, right? And
but they're removed from Binance. Were they not?
Were they? I don't remember that, but maybe that's my selective bias at work for not remembering it.
Because I remember it being a few specific ones, and like it was a few privacy coins, but the scrutiny has always primarily been on Monero, of course.
Yeah. I mean, Monero has like pretty openly intended to be easily private for everyone and without having to jump through hoops and closing as many heuristic gaps as possible. Where Zcash, hasn't really done that. It's interesting. It might actually be kind of a statement about heuristic gaps if you think about it. But that's again more speculation on my part. Although I think some of our devs would probably agree with that notion.
I would say Zcash is still on Binance, actually, at least for some countries, because I see it on their website available to buy. So yeah.
Are you still trading this thing in DJ and style? You still making gains on it? Just the one time?
Yeah. I mean, I still have a little bit of Zcash, but
confessions with Tux.
I know. Am I gonna get like my like? I literally have right now. I think it's just like a few, like maybe like 5 or 6 Zcash. It's really nothing. So, and it's over for me.
It's becoming even less of nothing as this price continues to crash.
I know. I should have pulled out when it like slammed all the way up to $80.
Oh, bro, you didn't pull out? Damn.
No, I didn't. I'm not a trader like you are. So usually I just buy stuff and I don't really look at it that much.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of that's definitely one strategy I've taken this bull market. I have this like spattering of just various shit coins, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I could sell. And a couple times I'm like, this looks like a good spot to sell. I'm like, yeah, but if I'm wrong, and I don't want to worry about it. So I understand the sentiment. You think, hey, maybe it could go 10x, and if I lose it all, you just don't care. All right, let's go back to the broader crypto markets here. Bitcoin, I wanted to, we talked a little bit about, okay, it's not too unsurprising to come down here and tag this 74,000 level. Incidentally, let's go to the shorter time frame here on the 4-hour. Incidentally, that $74,000 level would coincide with a very prominent moving average cluster. My charts are loading slowly today. I apologize for that, but let's turn on the transparency on this particular moving average cluster. And so you'll notice actually a little bit of confluence here, not just between the white bands here, which the clustering of white bands, which are moving averages, but you're also getting this clustering of the blue bands as well here. So maybe we need to go to the 8-hour to make this more valid, legitimate. But yeah, effectively, guys, this is, if you're a trader, like this is the spot. Like maybe not quite here. This chart, I don't like the way this chart looks in certain ways, but in other ways, like there's an easy swing trade opportunity for everyone coming in here as price approaches 74,000. If you're a trader, it's totally worth YOLOing something at, I probably would stagger this. I would probably start at 75 and then stagger down like 74 and then maybe like 73 or 72, right? Put 3 staggered orders in there to get long the market, to get long Bitcoin, particularly if you wanted to. And again, it's, so far it's been the safest thing to get long, and we're crying about not having our alt season or whatever. But yeah, this is not unexpected price action. This is normal. 30% pullbacks, even 40% pullbacks happen, even in bull markets. So yeah, I mean, personally, I would get long here. Not quite, but I would be preparing to get long. Right now it's kind of catch a falling knife territory. Could you have caught this bottom? Maybe, right? On very short time horizons, which are even harder to trade unless you're just algorithmic as fuck. It's hard to trade short time frames, but you could have, right? You might have taken these red bands. God, the charts are loading so slow today. Whenever these red bands pop up, you'll see that it actually kind of nailed that bottom there. Anyways, okay, so that's Bitcoin. I'm actually somewhat impressed.
I think it could retry. I mean, it looks like the double top was playing out mostly, but I think you said last week that you thought maybe it could retry again for another ATH.
Yeah, so it could very well possibly be the case. We hit this, we do the retest, we complete that retest, and then maybe Bitcoin goes for another all-time high, and then maybe some macro crash happens, or maybe not. Like in this moment, guys, I recommend flexibility, right? Like just keep your thinking flexible and be able to go, just move however the market goes. Right now, adding to your positions, adding to your longs, probably a good idea. Maybe not exactly at this moment. Markets have a funny way of everyone having the same headliner spots, and then that being like everyone might be waiting to smash the buy button here at 73 or 74K or something like that. But the market might just not ever get there because people front run other people. They're like, well, I'll buy a little bit sooner. And they're like, well, I'll get it at 75. Well, maybe I'll buy at 77. And also market makers, the big money, the whales, they obviously are a factor in there. So they might not let you get your buy orders. They're probably seeing the markets. So, I mean, even right here, you could still, if you're a bull believer, you could add to your position right here and be comfortable with it. But it's still in the neighborhood of catch a falling knife territory in my mind. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see if that turns out to be correct or not. But that's also kind of why last week I was like, I don't really have any opinions on where this market goes. I didn't like that it was kind of riding the lower levels here. I personally, it was like a no man's land. So anyways, yeah, that's how that looks. Bitcoin dominance is actually holding on, continues to hold on, continues to do pretty good. This fabled alt season so far is not forthcoming. So sorry. Sorry if we can't get our degen gains, still waiting. Maybe altcoin season is more so driven by a liquidity expansion event as opposed to being driven by Bitcoin new all-time highs, or maybe the combination of the two is like an important factor. But we are in that zone where it's like altcoin season should happen some point, and it should happen now, right? And it should happen like maybe it should have happened a couple weeks ago. It's still not like terribly too late. It's not like pack it in, it's over, boys. It's not quite over yet, but we are kind of waiting here like the fucking skeleton at his computer. Okay, I think that's all that we need to talk about for Bitcoin. We talked about hash rate. Let's take a look at the macro, because the macro has taken a slightly concerning turn. We could take a look at the reverse repos, which have kind of notched up here. One thing that I've noticed about these pumps in the reverse repos, they're always these spikes and then they come back down, right? So for the past 2 years, the profile of reverse repos, which is money parked with the Fed overnight by institutions, is you get spike and then immediate come back down, spike and then it comes back down. So if we were looking at some kind of sea change in the macro situation, we would see something like a spike, hold, and then another spike, and then hold, right? You would just get a normal chart pattern that is not wicky, doesn't have a bunch of wicks going on, but instead actually moves towards the upside, shows some sustainability, and then makes another move towards the upside. That would start to become concerning, because it means that big institutions are actually leaving risk in a more, in a more sustained fashion, or a more like headliner type of fashion. I don't know what word to use there, but it just indicates that it would be indicating if that happens, it would indicate that institutions are leaving risk and protecting themselves, protecting their stack. So if you see that in reverse repos, if we see that where we get this sustained higher incremental higher highs and higher lows, that's a sign that we need to be careful about. Oil has also now come back down into this trend that we had talked about for quite a long time, fucking September, if you really look at it. And it's still holding on. But again, I feel like in a lot of ways, guys, I feel like this is our alpha, right? This is the thing that people aren't really looking about. They're not talking about it on social media. It's not prominent out there. Yet I believe that it is very likely correlated with macro crashes. And it's a leading indicator by like ever so slightly. We're talking like a week, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So again, as we've talked about, getting into here is a yellow zone, right? And then getting into here is a danger zone. So for those listeners out there that are not seeing charts, we are currently at about $70 per barrel on oil. The range between, say, 66 and 69 is kind of this yellow, a yellow light range, like, hey, be careful, something could be about to happen. And if we start breaking down, if you see multiple daily closes at 66 or lower, that is your sign that that shit's starting to get real and you need to protect yourself. So if you're watching the news, Fox News, because I know you guys have the MSM constantly plastered on your TVs, maybe it's actually on the wall at work if you work. If you see oil 66 and closing and you see that a few days in a row, you need to go get into the charts. You need to come to the price report here on Saturday. You need to figure out how to protect your stack because it's a very high chance that
I got the CNN and Fox News IV drip. Don't worry.
Yep, it's like that cocaine and coffee we were talking about. You just need a little bit of motivation. You know, you see all
I want to buy gas for $1 again,
bro. I remember when I first started driving, it was like 70 cents. Like, holy crap! I mean, that was only temporary, but
I've never seen that in my entire life.
Yeah, well, if I want to sound like an old timer, I can be like, well, I was driving.
Buddy has unk status, okay?
I'm an old man now. All
He's
right,
unk.
Uncle Bowdy. Yes. Or no. All right. Next, moving on. We're almost done here. God, if I rambled too much today, I apologize. I apologize to everybody. Gold is pulled back here. Why am I on the 2-day? Let's go to the 1-day. I don't know why I would be on the 2-day. Sometimes you want to compress the chart. Actually, I take it back. Did gold set? Gold kind of set a tiny, itty bitty, tiny higher high on Monday, and then the rest of the week it sort of pulled back, and that kind of makes sense when you look at the Dixie, which pumped. Again, we've talked about this before. Dixie and gold are basically anti-correlated, usually, but not always. Yeah, so effectively, you know, the dollar index pumped. Oil had problems. Reverse repos have spiked. So it would be completely unsurprising for us to meander on over to the S&P 500 and say, oh, wow, we actually had a little bit of a pullback here. 5% this week, the S&P has dropped. So, yeah, risk assets, there seems to be a little bit of aversion to risk at the moment. NVIDIA has taken a major drop as well, down 14%. Still basically trucking along that, you know, along that horizon for the past like 7 to 8 months. When NVIDIA pumped, and this vertical line was the day I said NVIDIA is not a bubble. And so far, it hasn't been a bubble, but you know it will crash with the macro.
I mean, they beat their quarter one projections, so to be fair,
yeah, they beat their quarter one projections from. You mean their fourth quarter projections?
Or sorry, yeah, the fourth quarter 2024 projections.
It's interesting though if you look
by
at
like
it,
$1 billion, $2 billion, something like that.
Inserts Dr. Evil pinky finger. There's it's interesting though because like they are kind of like at these, I wouldn't say low levels, but they're definitely at local lows despite that news. So I don't know. I mean, there are signs in the market now that are returning that show things aren't totally well, but they're not flashing imminent signs of crash. But if they continue along this trajectory for even another week or so, we really will be looking at like, oh shit, this is it, guys. Like, prepare yourselves because massive opportunity awaits for those that know how to, you know, that are versatile to take advantage of the situation. Bonds aren't doing anything, same as usual. Bonds never do anything until they do. Again, we're looking for a massive crash, quick violent moves, quick crashes down in bonds and the rate of bonds, and a further correction to even more positive of the inversion or of the yield curve, I should say, which is no longer inverted actually. So I think we have a JPOW meeting coming up. Oh, where's the schedules? looks like March 18th to 19th. So we're still a little bit ways away from there.
Jay Powell's
I
stepping
think.
down.
Oh, is he? Okay, shit, man, that's too bad. I actually kind of liked him. I know he's like a little gremlin.
He was like a meme for years.
Yeah. I don't know why I like the dude. I just like the way he talked. It's like he was bored of his own bullshit and he didn't believe any of it. But he's like, I just got to say all this shit and they see through it. But I'll just go with emotions anyways.
I don't remember who it is now.
It's probably me anthropomorphizing what's actually just an android or some shit.
Okay, he's still in until next year, so May 2026. His term will be over.
Oh shit! I bet you his term is over after the liquidity expansion. I bet he just expands liquidity, and Trump is like, there's like a crash, and then he's like, we got to save the market, and then Trump's like, Jay Powell has caused the inflation again, and then he fires him. It's just like more theater. That's just me joking, guys. That's not a prediction. Please don't hold me to that. But
I will short right before it happens.
The Fed should not be lowering rates here. In my mind, at this moment, if the Fed lowers rates, that's an indication that they know shit's about to get real. And so they're trying to front run it slightly because the Fed needs to hold rates steady. I don't know what the market, I haven't checked what the market belief is on what the Fed's about to do in the next 2.5 weeks at the next meeting. But in my mind, that's kind of like they shouldn't lower rates here. We already, like, inflation ticked up. Markets are still doing great. Like, okay, there's some pullback this week, but if they lower rates, like, that's definitely a sign that they don't have.
Yeah, that was surprising. Didn't they lower rates just a little bit recently? Just a little bit.
So,
are they? Maybe there was just talks about it.
They set themselves a range. They say the target range or something like that. Like, but they set themselves a range so they can slightly adjust that mid-cycle if they want to. But the chart here doesn't show any significant. So the white line, this white stair-step line. Currently, rates are sitting at 4.32%, or the federal funds overnight rate sits at 4.32%. But I don't see any major change to this, but they might have slightly adjusted it. So let's see. Let's just check everything else. I don't think there's anything else to talk about here.
Ethereum is.
You want to talk about ETH? Oh, bro.
ETH is
make people angry.
Yeah, it's not looking too nice.
Yeah, ETH is sucking.
I think it oversold. So
I also think that, yeah. Still, though, I kind of would have maybe expected ETH to make a bit more of a comeback. This chart is not horrible. Let's see how far it dropped. Oh, God, that's gross. 50%. That's not good.
It's not too great.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sol is also like Sol is getting crushed as well, though. So,
dude, Sol had flipped XMR in like December. It was like it went up to like 250, 260, and it totally lost half of that over the last like month or two. And it went all the way down to 130 briefly, dipped down to 130. And now Monero sitting a lot higher over Solana. So yeah, Solana's really a shit coin
chart. Maybe I need to replace the XMR versus ETH chart with the XMR.
Honestly, the XMR versus Sol is going to be way more interesting. It's like there's a lot more action going on.
Well, let's check this chart out. Let's just get some quick impressions while we're on the horn. Yeah, so big crushingness by Sol against XMR, relatively speaking. God, I don't even want to know how much of a loss that is for XMR. Let's just do the measurement though. So from basically almost the beginning of 2024, a little bit earlier, down to the bottom, Sol beat Monero to the tune of 90%. If you want to invert that, that's basically Sol did a 10x versus XMR. That's how you could think about that. Lately, XMR has done a 1.5x relative to Sol. This chart actually does look interesting in the sense that maybe, I mean, if you're just doing tea leaves analysis, and be careful about that, but right now it does look like XMR would shoot to the moving average cluster here, which would imply, let's take a look, do another measurement. That would imply another like 70% gain of XMR versus Sol. Whether that's forthcoming or not, I don't know. You have to remember that not everything is technical analysis. I think you guys know that. And some of you guys really know that. And you really make that known, which is fine. I want to hear your opinions. Honestly,
if you cut out the right time, though, you could have done a nice arbitrage of XMR into Sol, because XMR was at like it held its price for quite a while during the massive sell-off. It was at like 125, 128, and Sol was already down to 140. So you could have you could have definitely made a move there. And now Monero's
Yeah.
down a little bit lower, and Sol went up a little bit. So Sol didn't recover as much as I thought it would, though. It's still sitting only around 140.
Yeah, I guess the contracts platforms in general, the two major ones. I guess there's Cardano, but I never hear anybody talk about Cardano.
Never even used it.
It's insane that that it even has a market cap where it does. Like, how nobody talks about it, nobody uses it. Heather is not on it, so there's another little question mark about that. So, to put it nicely. Let's see. We have a comment from Mr. 1024 Anderson on YouTube. He says, Bowdy, switch to a Firefox fork. Mozilla Firefox is going full Google. Two things. Well, probably more like 10 things on there, but I'll try and stick to two. Yes. So for those of you that don't know, Firefox decided to really go full tilt into their Google loving partnership. Google funds them to like the tune of 90-95%, and they have for years. So that tells you a lot. But I'm going to say this wrong. I'm going to paraphrase it wrong. Basically, Firefox says that any data that you send over the Firefox platform in the browser, so we're talking mouse clicks, anything you type, anything you say or speak, any as in on a podcast, anything that you do on Firefox, they claim, and part of their usage license agreement, they have the right to use royalty-free in basically any context that they desire. From for in perpetuity or something like that. Chucks, if you want to correct what I just said, that was a terrible paraphrase. But effectively, they have the rights to use anything that you do in that browser for any purpose that they want. Profit, doesn't matter. Training their AIs, advertisements, helping Google, whatever. It is insanely Orwellian. It is vastly worse than it's ever been before with Firefox. It's always been pretty bad. So to answer Mr. Anderson, I'm speaking from a browser that is using LibreWolf. I switched that over actually this week immediately when I heard that, and I just haven't got around to switching my TradingView charts to Firefox. So I will do that. I just forgot to do it before the podcast today.
Yeah, I think it's possible that they've just done something very, very broad as like a legal measure to cover themselves for maybe some new feature. But at the same time, it's a really bad look, and it is incredibly broad. And the truth is that Mozilla has over the course of 10, 20 years has severely degraded as a company, and is really they're not the best for privacy anymore. And they don't push privacy like they used to. And that's just the truth. So this happening is it just looks really bad. So
yeah, I actually, Ben, that's a really great insight that you just said there at the beginning. I want to point everyone out that putting on a very flexible legal hat. Yes, Mozilla probably did this because my estimation is they're probably training AI or doing some kind of AI stuff. And particularly they want to just have carte blanche legal immunity from any foul thing that they might end up using this data for. And just to make that statement as legally broad as possible is the easiest way for them to cover their asses into the future. But the problem is, of course, as you noted, how the consequences that could actually have for users and for your data. And it's that's just an unacceptable level of retardation now at this point. But your astute observation, I think, is that, yeah, this is probably illegal covering their ass measure as opposed to some sort of truly malicious intent to tentacle your data. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of the same thing I thought as well.
Yeah, they said they'll revise it, but it is kind of crazy that they removed this one particular section that says Firefox or Mozilla never sells your data, and we never will. They directly removed that on a Git commit. And there's hundreds of comments under that Git commit from them removing that from there. It was their easy TOS page that kind of lays part of the TOS out, and it had this blanket statement about them never selling your data, and then just kind of remove that quietly.
Did they really say that they never will? Was that actually specifically part?
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting because removing that could actually open them up to some kind of suit, especially if they derive a profit from it.
Yeah, I think it's possible it's over sensationalized, but it's still regardless, it's not a good look. It's Mozilla's been on a constant. I'm very bearish on Mozilla. They've been very bare for years, and they don't do anything useful, and they've
been horrible. They
waste all the money that they get.
Do you remember when they nuked add-ons? They nuked everybody's add-ons because they mismanaged some signing keys, and everybody told them before, like all of the smart guys told them ahead of time, the way you're managing these signing keys for add-ons is really retarded, and you guys are definitely going to screw this up at some point in the future, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. Lo and behold, they screwed it up, and they nuked everybody's add-ons, like no script and all the things that like
It's
probably a lot of
crazy.
people actually got compromised as a result.
It's crazy. Oh, we got a couple XMR chats here. No tips, 7 cents. Is it likely that XRP or some other shitcoin passed ETH for the #1 altcoin spot?
Let's check it out. XRP. Let's do the long version.
ETH's been #2 for quite a long time now, so that would be.
It would be incredible if it did, but I'm not sure. It doesn't. No, it doesn't look even close.
No, Ethereum still got double the market cap of #3.
Yeah.
Which
it's not even close.
Tether, but if we're actually talking about another like coin, XRP is #3, and it's less than half of the market cap of ETH. So yeah.
Actually, I'm looking at the wrong chart here. There we go. Crypto cap chart is what we need. Yeah. So it's like you said, 50%. Oh shit. XRP actually did have early on, 2019. XRP actually had flipped ETH for.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay, but didn't last very long.
No. It's kind of like that moment that ETH almost gained market cap parity with Bitcoin. Man, that dream that I had is starting to slip away. I can't claim I can't even give that 50% odds anymore. Not without a macro crash.
Sad.
I know. But maybe Solana, right? I mean,
that's the thing though, is that like ETH is so expensive now that like all the meme coin stuff moved to Solana, and so it kind of just naturally, like, especially like when Trump, oh my goodness, when Trump coin came up, Solana, like within like the day of Trump coin coming out, it gained like 20% just because of all the liquidity going into Solana, which is crazy. But it's because it's cheap, it's fast. Like, yeah, okay, it's kind of centralized. Running a Solana full node requires an insane amount of hardware, and there are times when the entire Solana network has been down, which is like, it's like, what is this? Is this like, I thought this was not supposed to be able to happen, but because it's cheap and it's fast, like all the meme coin stuff has moved to it, because like Ethereum is just so expensive for doing small trades.
Well, I mean, there's a whole bunch of ETH layer 2s. Now there's like Base, there's Arbitrum, Polygon.
Yeah, Base, I think, Base is pretty fast and cheap too, but it seems like people have preferred Solana over using the Ethereum L2s for the most part.
It's crazy. It's like, it's this weird dichotomy where Bitcoin has this massive market cap and almost like no capacity main chain, and all their converts are like, L2 is going to crush it, but their L2 sucks. ETH has actually pretty good usable L2s, but no one wants to use them anyways, even though they're pretty good. And so people,
what's the reason behind that?
That might not even be like Solana is probably pretty centralized, as you mentioned.
Because I mean, you're right, ETH does have some decent L2s, but it seems like people have overall preferred to just like go with Solana. Like all of the recent celebrity coins have all been Solana. The Trump one, the freaking Argentina Libra one, the Bahamas is doing their own coin on Solana. It's like they're all doing Solana. I don't know why, but it's just the one that's been chosen. So
it is interesting. Like, it has some. So they have 400 millisecond block times, and I have no idea how their technology works. But despite the what's the right phrase for this? The speed of electricity. Despite the time it takes to send a packet from one part of the globe to the other, they can still somehow maintain synchronization across nodes, even with that delay included, because they have some, like, I don't know, secret sauce technology that makes that possible. Probably their secret sauce is probably just centralization disguised with a lot of fancy words. But that's also me being an asshole. So maybe it actually does work, because I haven't actually looked into it. But
yeah, me neither. I can't really speak directly to it. But what I do know for sure is that there has been multiple times in history, even last year, where Solana network has just been down.
Yeah. That shouldn't really happen. Like, even when ETH had problems with with some of their front end providers, the network still continued on. Like the blockchain still continued on in a fashion that you would expect it should, even if it wasn't totally accessible for certain dApps. But maybe none of that matters.
Then I
All
think
right,
we
have
had another one more from FD tip 25 cents on macro. Gammon pointed out Buffett cash position even higher now than before 2008 GFC.
Yeah, I've heard that actually quite a few times. I've seen it too often that some of these these headliner big name people like do something and then the market like just does the opposite. So for example, Michael Burry, he was like the first person to identify the housing crisis and then short the shit out of it back in I think he did it like 2005 or something, 2004. So he was early, but he wasn't wrong. But anyways, he's gotten some fame lately, and people want to see what he's shorting, and then it just never turns out. So you got to wonder, okay, I'm not implying any like malicious intent on the part of Michael J. Burry, but it is possible that he's using that fame to sort of counter trade the markets. And who knows if Warren Buffett would do that? Warren Buffett has talked bad about cash for so long. So how is he in this big cash position? I don't know. Does he not believe in America anymore? He knows it always goes up. Why would he hold cash? Like, why wouldn't he at least hold gold? Isn't that dumb? Like, he should know
really.
well enough to go into gold. So I have questions.
Oh, this was interesting. I don't know if you ever looked at the PHS, but apparently the PHS hit a very, like, I don't know if it was an all-time low, but it was like a big low, which is pending home sales for like a long time. So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah,
that's a metric that I haven't looked at, but I'm gonna write that down. Let me maybe you can comment on it next week. The actual home sales currently don't look like terrible or anything. Let's see, where do I keep this chart? Here. So you can notice the sawtooth action in the yellow, and then I drop vertical lines. So we basically should see a tick up here. I don't know when we're going to get the data. It's always kind of laggy. The last data we have is from January 1st. We should be getting some data soon. But this thing should start ticking up. But that's another good indicator.
If it doesn't,
it's over.
Nope. Honestly, it needs to happen, dude. It's like real estate is. Oh my word.
Yeah. I mean, macro crash is good for our bags. It's bad for inflation because it implies they have to do another liquidity expansion. And liquidity expand like 2000. So here's a like little bit of trivia that people don't totally understand about 2008 and what the libertarians got wrong in 2008, including myself. When they reinflated the economy, they didn't reinflate banking money. Now, I know this is like kind of a weird distinction, but the way the system works, there is bank money, what you traditionally think of like money that you can use that flows around the economy, et cetera. And then there's reserves. And these are two separate circuits of money. The reserve circuit of money stays locked up in the Federal Reserve. And the problem, of course, was that the banks had effectively over-leveraged themselves, and the entire market was deflating, and there weren't enough reserves basically to back all of the bank money in circulation because of the leverage they had created. So in response, the Federal Reserve and Ben Bernanke, Mr. Helicopter Money himself, decided, I know, we will just buy these toxic MBSs and we'll put that as reserves. And that will reinflate the reserve circuit of the economy, and thus save the actual bank money side, the bank money circuit of the economy from inevitable deflation. And as a result, all that ended up happening was they sort of reinflated the economy, reinflated the money supply, or prevented it from deflating any further, and then we had a decade of marching higher in prices with very low in like real economy inflation, because again, the inflation happened on the reserve circuit side, and it was just enough to sort of keep things floating without like excessively printing tons and tons of new bank money. And when the economy caught a cold in 2020,
yep, and then that happened.
They actually inflated the banking side of the equation, the bank money side of the equation, which is what caused the inflation. It's difficult for me to believe that any new macro crash and intervention would not cause additional inflation of the bank money side of that equation. So if they intervene, you're going to have to expect to see inflation as a result, probably like on a 1 to 2 year delay. I think we got another comment here from, is it Aloha?
We got Hawk was on Sol, yeah, that massive rug pull, the historic rug pull. Yeah, and untipped 3 cents for rolling over shitcoin gain to Monero. Is it best for privacy to convert to the chain's main coin first as a hop, or swap to a coin join or Tornado Cash type thing first, or just immediately go straight into swap XMR? For most things, you can't really do a coin join or Tornado Cash type thing. So for most things, you are just going to end up swapping from whatever it is. Like for Solana, I don't think there's any privacy tool you can use for anything on Solana. So you are going to swap instantly from Solana to Monero. But like if you want to maintain some privacy, you can use a new address every time, a new Monero address every time. So don't use the same address every time you swap to that wallet, right?
I would say that, yeah, like if you don't want them to know you, that you swapped into Monero, you could totally do a coin join or Tornado or whatever, if there's a protocol on the chain that offers that. And then swap over to Monero. You have a plausible deniability. Probably.
Yes, for
probably have a
Ethereum, you
plausible
could still use
deniability.
Tornado Cash.
Yeah, it's actually, I think with the way the courts have ruled, you can actually use that as a U.S. citizen now. It was struck down in appellate that that OFAC
Oh, so now you won't
actually
even have a
designate
legal
those
scrutiny
contract
with it.
addresses.
Okay, well, that's actually pretty good. Okay.
You know, shit, we probably should have covered that in the news, and maybe we should
Well, we
we should circle
certainly
back
can.
around at some point and cover that. Because yeah, that's actually consequential. There might actually be people in the audience here that have Ethereum, or maybe had Tornado Cash coins locked that they were like, I can't touch it because the government will hate me.
Well, I noticed that the SEC has been on a spree recently of withdrawing from cases against all these entities. Like there's been like over a dozen in the past week where they've fully withdrawn from, which is like ultimately good. But I also think it's there's now going to purposefully be less scrutiny for, and they specifically said, the SEC said this recently, that most meme coins would not be considered securities, which sounds good, but I think this is for all of these people who are doing these like pump and dump things, right? They need to get their ass covered, like Trump did one, right? They need to get their ass covered. So it's kind of ultimately for the like free market, I think it's good, but
I mean, even just like the legal conclusion, I believe, is that is the correct decision. These meme coins are effectively baseball cards. They're not like none of these guys is offering you equity in the productive capacity of a centralized management of funds for their endeavor. They're just like,
unless
hey,
they actually tell you.
Cool.
Like, I mean, look at the Trump one, right? Like there was a million disclaimers on the website, like, oh, this is just for like fun or whatever. You're not promising anything. So in that sense, it's like, yeah, I mean, they're not actually claiming it. You're going to get anything. That's when it becomes a bad thing, is when you're claiming you'll make XYZ on something and then they can potentially get you for having an unregistered security.
Yeah.
But short whip surfer tipped 25 cents. About USDC on Coinbase, withdraw to self-custody Solana wallet and swap to XMR. Yeah. I think it's what a lot of people do to get Monero now, is just buying something on like Coinbase, Binance, and then, I mean, because Coinbase is the biggest one for sure. If you don't have Kraken, then people will buy something like Litecoin or even like USDC Tether on Coinbase, then swap it to Monero. I hope you're withdrawing that in the Cake wallet. Epic Trader 9001 tip 25 cents. But when you compare the standard deviation of gold in regards to Sol in conjunction with the yearly growth rate of Monero, it's insane. I mean, has anyone really been far even as decided to use even want to do look more like? I think you had me in the first half there, sir.
Standard deviation of gold in regards to Sol. Epic Trader, do you mean like, I assume you just mean like the wave magic, like the standard deviation clusters of gold as we divide by Sol? Let's just pull that chart up, I guess, for grins. What are we looking at? XAU USD divided by Sol USD. It's probably good enough. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you divide gold by other assets, particularly assets that have been pumpy, gold has this like same pattern. You'll see it over and over again. You divide by the S&P, same thing. You divide by Bitcoin, same thing. Gold comes like to the downside and then just like stays here for a long time. And it kind of wants to pump right now. It's still looking like it wants to pump more. And yeah, maybe it'll actually get up here into those moving average clusters. Let's go a little bit here like that. So maybe another like 50%, maybe 50 to 100% gold could pump against Solana here. Okay, but trying to contextualize the rest of your comment here, in conjunction with the yearly growth rate of Monero, you have to be more specific. You mean like the price growth rate of Monero, or like the supply, or the transactions? Never been far even as decided to use.
So we need silver to like do something.
Look more like. Yeah, I can't totally make heads or tails of your comment, Epic Trader. I apologize. Thank you for the 25 cents. if you're in the YouTube comments and you want to clarify without having to go deep into your pockets for another XMR chat, we'll try and respond to that. Or you could just send us another 25 cents. Gold versus Solana. This is a chart I haven't ever actually looked at. I'm actually about to get hardcore back into charts, guys. I've been kind of lazy for some period of time here, but I'm going to get pretty hardcore back into
He's
charts.
like, oh shit, I need to start making some money again.
Kind of, yeah. You know, you make a big score. You're like, all right, let me lay on the beach for a while and chill. And then you're like, all right, well, I need to continue making the gains. It's not enough to rest on your laurels.
What about silver? Like,
Yannis.
why doesn't silver ever? I need silver to pump.
Oh yeah, man, I learned a hard lesson with silver in the last bear market.
Why is it
not
stuck?
2 bear markets ago. Yeah, somewhere in 2017, I actually moved into silver, and that was just a huge mistake. I should have moved into gold. Yeah, so let me pull up my
I had
gold
people
charts
tell me to buy
quickly.
silver years ago, and yeah, gold would have been actually the move instead. So thanks for that.
Let's see. So this is the gold versus silver chart. So this is gold divided by silver. So as this chart goes up, that means gold is performing, and as it drops, that means silver is performing. Right now, gold is performing effectively. The best time to buy silver is after a macro crash. So gold pumps because everyone's like, it's kind of like the safety play. And then everyone gets into the risk asset, which is silver, and then silver overperforms. But why the hell would you buy silver after a macro crash plus intervention? You would just buy Dogecoin or whatever. You just buy Trump coin or
just 10x on
Andrew Tate's
whatever.
Daddy coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
True.
just find the stupidest, most autistic BS that you can find, and then buy that. Like,
Dude, silver has literally not moved. Oh, actually, no, it has moved since I bought it, but not much. Not much.
What's
Not
crazy
much.
What's crazy is that gold is like, ever since gold has broken above all-time highs and continued to sustainably put on all-time highs, silver, there was like a moment right here where we said, hey, you know, you might have said silver's about to outperform gold because everybody knows it's a bull market and silver outperforms gold during bull markets, during metals bull markets. But that's not what happened. Gold has continued to outperform silver, which is actually a very unusual pattern. But that's why they say gold is safer. If you're pivoting to metal, typically it's because you're trying to protect your stack while keeping up with inflation. That's why you get into metal. Now, if you're
Trump
a trader,
is moving us back to the gold standard. It's happening.
Oh, yeah. I totally believe that.
Could you imagine, man? What would happen to gold? I mean, it would like 10x, right?
Yeah, maybe more.
That would be so
partially
wild.
on a gold standard. That's the thing. We are partially on a gold standard. Gold is reserves across all central banks. Like the United States has a shitload
Gold
of
is going to be one of the MoneroTopia sponsors this year.
Oh yeah,
the
gold that totally exists in Fort Knox.
Seriously though, gold backs. Yeah, what do you? When are we going to see the Fort Knox show? That's going to happen. They're going to do it. It's going to be hilarious.
It'll also be fake and gay. Like, will we be able to trust it? They weren't just tungsten plated gold.
So people are saying they're thinking there's going to be more gold than expected. Like that's going to be the.
Nah, they would move it out if they actually had more gold. They would hide it somewhere. I mean, that's what I would do if I was them.
If Trump were to actually move us back on the gold standard, and like be, you know, try to get rid of the Federal Reserve, they wouldn't miss. They would succeed in assassinating him. So that's for
they
sure.
wouldn't miss.
Sean is saying gold up, BTC down. Sean, by the way, if you want to be our special guest today, please do jump up on stage.
I do occasionally look at the BTC versus
Private
gold
chip
price.
50 cents. Thank you for that. Yeah, I guess that's mostly it. For price report.
Oh, that's more than mostly it. We've
I know. I was
round
just
and round.
yeah.
We gotta have a Tari show at some point. Now that Tari's finally coming.
Yeah,
to
we haven't
fruition.
heard from Fluffy in a long time.
Like I had them on the show back in the day. It's literally been so long. I don't even know what the project is. What is its current iteration? You know. I would
supposedly
like to know
they
more
launch in
about Tari.
April.
Yeah.
Until then, they'll continue to get the
Soon.
Nothing Ever Happens award.
What's their pre-mine situation, dev tax, funding? Anybody have insight into that? Like I heard they're like VC funded, right?
Man, I don't know. I used to pay attention to it like 2 years ago, and then they
Like I never really got
kept
a
sort of
full
changing, and then I
Yeah,
stopped paying attention.
initially, when Tari was initially pitched, it was pitched as being like a second layer to Monero. Like that was the initial, like super, like they got people excited about it, and then it slowly became its own coin, own project. And yeah, I don't really. What is? Does anybody know? Like the fundamentals?
The whole thing started
No.
before I was even in this community, but even then I hadn't really looked into it much because it just there's a
Like,
shit ton of promotion
is
that
there
goes
a
into it.
founders? Is there a founders fund or whatever? I mean,
No, I don't know.
I don't know. Fluffy,
Yeah.
come on and
That'll
tell
be
us,
for
educate us.
yeah. Someone will have to come on next week to. Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
You know who would come on? Naveen. Naveen would come on. He would
maybe
talk.
Naveen, come
Yeah,
on.
he would definitely come on.
And so, can we from day one point our Monero miner to mine Tari as soon as this thing launches?
No, I don't.
'Cause that'd be sick.
Well,
That'd be
I think they have some partial level of merge mining. Unless that changed, I think they wanted to maintain a
yeah,
connection to the
merge
Monero
mining was
community.
always the set. Yeah, that was always supposed to be. Once it was no longer a second layer to Monero, that it was merge. The idea was it was going to be merge mined with Monero. But
Yeah, it seemed like it wasn't even. It's like it wasn't even a product looking for a solution or a product looking for a problem to solve. It was like a team looking for a problem to solve. I don't know. It seems like Xano kind of beat them to the NFT space, but
yeah, they want to do the. It feels like it's a little late for. I mean, I guess it's not going anywhere, but they definitely missed the euphoric retard stage where everybody was just like NFT, and then meme coins. Like I don't know, it's not right. It's gonna, I guess, continue to trend up over time. There's so much that can be done in this space, though, right? Like putting different assets on these chains. Like we're seeing just the beginning of that, but I don't know what the winning protocols are going to be for that.
yeah,
I do think you're going to want a privacy version of Ethereum, right? Like something that really does that well. Or Solana,
big
whatever you want
points,
to call it.
big market cap for the first chain that does that.
What's that?
I said big points, big market cap for the first chain that launches and does that in a way that's convincing.
Yeah, could that be DarkFi, Tari, the Xano? I don't know.
No, I mean, I think so. One of the things that I heard Rick say quite a lot, it was that Tari is supposed to be kind of this non-fungible token thing, not in the sense of like meme coins, although that was usable, but he talked like concert tickets, for example. Like you could issue
That was always the
tickets.
example. Yeah.
But the thing is, like now there's so many chains that can do that, and it's just that's late to the game. And by the time they launch, it's very possible that DarkFi will also be launching. And it's like, well, why would you have a separate chain for NFTs when you could just generalize that on a full Turing complete contracts platform?
Yeah, why not just build a second layer on Monero too, right? Like, why don't we see that?
That's difficult.
Actually, somebody did just reach out to me recently, say they were trying to work on like a Monero Lightning Network.
I'm not a believer. I really am not a believer in Monero Lightning Network until someone like shows something that's, because I'm all about like having, having a payment channel. Like payment channels are cool. And a payment channel network is also pretty cool, but Bitcoin shows why it's difficult. But Monero has dynamic blocks, so it could potentially be serviced, but you still have routing issues. I would like to see it. It would be a good scaling like assist. It wouldn't be like the main event, but it would be a nice assist. But the problem is that you need that challenge opportunity. It's an optimistic system that relies, like payment channel networks as currently implemented, are optimistic systems that require the opportunity to present a fraud proof in the case that someone said something false. And that's inherently kind of a weak system and is attackable in a very fundamental sense. And furthermore, the problem is you need a time lock involved. But Monero has removed time locks, or is about to remove time locks from transactions, which leaves you in this space where you have to do serial hashing as your sort of clock. And even like that starts to be, there's too much complexity involved there. No one is going to have a CPU dedicated to serial clock hashing so that they can do their fraud proof transaction contestation transaction for their payment channel network. Like that's so far in the autism savant weeds that like nobody's going to do that. They don't even use Arbitrum hardly.
Luke Parker will figure it out.
If anyone
Yeah, I mean,
can.
theoretically, payment channels would be possible in the next hard fork.
Yeah.
Because of some additions.
The transaction stringing, yeah, like that's
Yeah.
an addition, but we still don't have a viable time lock mechanism that makes that possible in my mind. Like not one that actually would work.
It is really ironic though that Lightning, as it exists right now, would already work better on Monero simply because of the dynamic block size. That is pretty like ironic and just that's just like it's like come on guys.
Yeah.
We got a couple more
private by
XMR
default
chats
going
here.
on and off the chain.
Yeah, that's pretty big too. And on tip 25 cents to onboard noobs to Monero, would it make sense to tell them to buy LTC on a KYC exchange, then withdraw and do a couple MF transactions for swapping to XMR? Is this good at protecting chain analysis? Also, what's Arctic? I don't know why you're asking with Arctic's not here. Maybe you have to ask him directly. I'd say that's a reasonable way to do it because like the recommendation already is for a lot of people to, if the only way you can really get into Monero is buying LTC and swapping it, that's already the recommendation. But if you're going to put it into MWeb and maybe move it a little bit, that can definitely improve your privacy. Like MWeb is not a silver bullet, but it is pretty good. It's a pretty good start. So yeah, that's definitely not a bad idea. Nothing wrong with doing that at all.
Yeah, it'll help obfuscate the fact that you went to XMR from Litecoin and maybe the exchange doesn't want you to do that.
Yep.
So.
Yep, it'll definitely do that versus without going in MWeb, it's fully like, you know, it's going to be easy to see that you swapped into XMR. If they can get data from the exchange that you swapped into, which most of them they can.
Brian Armstrong might slap you with a bad boy notice. Be like, yeah, you're not allowed to do that with these Litecoin from our exchange. Charlie Lee does not approve.
Kev tip 3 cents. There is actually a new tool on Sol called Leith that is similar to Tornado Cash. Oh, interesting. Could you do a quick check on how that compares for obfuscation before swapping XMR, or is it a risk? Can't really do a quick check for something like that. That's that's a bit
exactly
too much.
What I was gonna say. Like
that's if you want us to do it. That's 3 cents. Okay, maybe like $10. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's interesting. I'll look at that. Not sure how it compares.
Probably based on the same constructs or very similar constructs, I would imagine. If they very closely copy Tornado Cash model, it's probably comparable. Without and that's the best we could say without being cryptographers and hardcore studying the protocol.
Yeah, none of us here are going to be able to determine exactly how good is Tornado Cash. That'd be cool though if it is very similar. That'd be awesome. That'd actually be pretty cool because Tornado Cash is actually pretty good, which is why it was they tried to shut it down really quickly. And thankfully, scrutiny has been taken off of it, which is cool. But yeah, with that being said, I guess we can go ahead and move into the news segment. There is definitely some news to cover this past week. It's been a decent amount of funny stuff happening in the clown circus that is politics.
It's been highly entertaining this week.
I hate that they're so good at entertainment too. Like I am entertained. Like I am definitely entertained. Like
we are falling for the entertainment.
Yeah,
but knowing that it is entertainment even makes it more entertaining.
It is. It's like meta joke now. That's how they got us.
Damn it.
It's over.
God damn it.
Thank you as always, Bonnie, for going over everything.
Yeah, salute to you, Tux. Good partner here, conversational partner for the price support and beyond.
Yeah, that was good stuff, guys. Good banter. I'm putting in the StreamYard link to anybody that wants to potentially be our special guest this week. We don't have one. Tux may be trying out some tallow fried French fries. I don't know, Tux, is that happening? I don't know.
Yeah, I think they'll be here soon. We'll see. But yeah, basically Steak and Shake, they've switched, as of today, they've switched all of their restaurants to 100% beef tallow for frying everything, which is really cool. And there just happens to be one near me. So I'm going to be trying, hopefully in a little bit here, I'm going to trying some out and seeing how it is. So
can you do
we got to get them to accept Monero.
Can I do a what?
A live blind taste test?
Unfortunately, I don't have the previous. If I went, I should have gone last night and gotten the seed oil version and then kind of mix them. but unfortunately, I don't have the previous version. I can only try the new one now, so it'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
I'll just be trying them for the first time.
We needed to have somebody delivering you this paid for with Monero. Maybe
Yeah,
put
there'll
up on
be
XMR
someone
Bazaar.
put it up on XMR Bazaar. I will
Yeah.
buy you beef tallow fries from Steak and Shake.
I was just checking out. There's some good ones, some new ones that popped up. I like this. Which one here? I drive. This guy has a van. He'll drive anyone anywhere. He's currently like in Kansas. But I like the way he wrote this up. He won't ask any questions. Not asking for ID. You could transport whatever you like. as long as
Whatever I
it's-
like, huh?
I won't be checking your suitcases.
Bro,
Dude, this
That
guy,
kinda
that's,
agree.
that's
Post
actually kind
blows.
of.
But it's written in actually. It's good. It's funny. It's very funny.